My wife, who is 25 years old, and I, who am 26, are expecting a baby girl due in November. We are both so excited about it. I have been talking to her through my wife's belly, feeling her kicks, all of the fun stuff. 3 weeks ago, we scheduled the 20-week ultrasound, which will actually be closer to 22 weeks. The last week and a half, my grandfather's health had been gradually getting worse. I had a talk with my father and other family members, and I was told that sometime within a week of his passing, we would have the funeral. This made my wife and me have to discuss our plans. I was asked to be a pallbearer at the funeral. She said she would want to stay home with the dogs so we didn't have to board them, and that I could go by myself on the 4 to 4.5 hour trip up north to my father's hometown. Unfortunately, my grandfather passed away late last night or early this morning. I called my father to check on him, and he was holding on as much as anyone would when their father has just died. I was told the funeral would be held at 10 o'clock on Wednesday. This just so happens to be the exact same day as my wife's ultrasound appointment. My wife is now upset that I plan to go to my grandfather's funeral instead of the ultrasound. I said, well, we could FaceTime, but it's my grandfather. I know FaceTime isn't the same, but she said, yeah, but this is your daughter. Now she is mad and upset with me. I am feeling torn because I am so excited for my baby girl, but also really sad about my grandfather. I want to know if I am the asshole here. My wife's feelings are always going to be valid, but I feel like mine aren't being considered in this situation. I don't know. Story 2. My husband and I were out of town this week and left our dog with our roommate, who is also my husband's best friend of over 10 years. We offered to pay him to dog sit, but he declined and said he was happy to help. Our dog is well behaved but a burrower. He often digs into the couch cushions and moves things around when getting comfortable. Our roommate knows this. One day while we were gone, our roommate pulled the coffee table up against the sectional sofa, which is something he tends to do, and had his laptop and an open beer on it. While our dog was burrowing, a couch cushion fell over and knocked the open beer over, spilling it onto the laptop. The beer wasn't knocked directly by the dog, just the cushion. Now the laptop is damaged, and our roommate has asked us to pay for it in full. He says that it could have happened either way, regardless of the table setup, and that it wouldn't have spilled if our dog hadn't been there. We feel like this was completely preventable. He created a vulnerable situation by putting an open drink next to expensive electronics right where a dog, especially one he knows burrows, was lounging. We weren't even home. He knew the risks and still chose that setup. We feel bad that his laptop was damaged, but we don't think it's fair for us to pay the full cost when the damage wouldn't have happened without his choices. He disagrees and feels strongly that we should take full responsibility. So, am I the asshole? Story 3. Sometimes my mother likes to bring up little things, hoping my stance on them has changed. For some reason, she brought up how upset I was on my 15th birthday for not getting a Nintendo 64 game, and then admitted she went out and bought a game after seeing how disappointed I was. Which was news to me, because later that day my mother and sister presented me with a Nintendo 64 game and basically said, "Here, we didn't give it to you earlier because we just wanted it to be a joke." Then told me I was being a big baby about it, which admittedly I was. But I'd actually talked a lot for months leading up to my birthday how I'd wanted a Nintendo 64 game, and didn't even ask for a new one. There was a game crazy 2 miles away with a bunch of them used for very fair prices. I was very grateful for the game, and was playing it immediately. My mother suddenly admitted earlier that she only got me clothes on that birthday because I'd had a sudden growth spurt, and was not only needing clothes, but I was looking more like an adult. She pointed out where she'd gotten the clothes, and how good they were. I rebutted that the clothes were good, but I'd literally only asked for one thing back then, which was a Nintendo 64 game called Extreme G, specifically the first one, which was far from new at the time. She claimed she ran out and bought the game brand new for $50, but I pointed out I knew exactly where she'd bought the game, exactly what game it was, and how it had come out several years prior, and she bought it for about $20 at most. She tried to refute it, but I knew the details of the where, when and how from back then so well, that she diverted to trying to say teenagers loved new clothes, and my sister was jealous. I told her that when I was in high school, I didn't know a single person in my age group that was happy only for clothes on their birthdays. I told her I was in no way ungrateful for the clothes back then, but it felt like the one little thing I'd wanted that day was completely disregarded. Then I pointed out how much stuff my nephews get for their birthdays from all of us. My mother tried to claim it was a different time. But my 15th birthday was in 2001. Game Boys were on every corner back then, and the next generation of home game consoles was incoming, if not there already. I told my mother I wasn't asking for her to apologize or anything. I was just saying that's how I felt at the time, and she never really saw the situation from my side. I even agreed I was a brat about it. But in the end, all we could do was agree to disagree. I don't want to say I was hung up on it, but I also wasn't the one who brought it up. Now I'm feeling guilty for arguing about something from nearly 25 years ago. Am I the asshole for doing that? Story 4. Okay, so a few nights ago, my friend, who is an 18-year-old girl, and I also 18, took edibles together in our dorm room. We got them from this smoke shop that a friend recommended that didn't ask for identification, which should have been a red flag. I've done edibles before, but she hadn't, so I thought we'd be fine if we just relaxed and hung out in the room. At first, it was all good, like we weren't even feeling anything. Then suddenly, maybe an hour later, it hit us hard. We were both freaking out, but she was taking it way worse. She started crying, saying she felt like she was dying, having a full-blown panic attack. I was also losing it a little but trying to stay calm for both of us. Honestly, I've taken edibles plenty of times before, and I've never felt that way until that night. It was around 2 in the morning, we don't have cars, we don't really know anyone nearby with a car, and we're both out-of-state students. She kept saying she wanted to wake up our resident assistant for help, but we live on campus, and we could have gotten kicked out for doing drugs. I told her no, that it wasn't a good idea, and I wouldn't let her wake the resident assistant. She was furious and kept saying I didn't care about her and that she needed help, but I really didn't think going to the resident assistant would help anything, just get us in trouble. I stayed with her, gave her water, tried to calm her down, and eventually she came down and fell asleep. But now it's been a few days, and she's still mad at me and refuses to talk. She told one of our mutual friends that I put her life at risk. What's even worse, she thinks we were laced with something and that we could have died. I get why she was so scared. Being too high for the first time is awful, but I really didn't know what to do and just didn't want us both to end up in serious trouble. I thought I did the right thing in the moment. Now I feel horrible and I don't know if I messed up. Am I the asshole? They didn't ask for identification. Story 5. I have been married to my husband for 6 months now. I personally feel that the first couple of years of marriage are very precious, even though we have been living together for 4 years now. This is the foundation of our relationship as a married couple. So my husband's friend needs a place to stay for the next 5 months. At first, when he asked us, I thought it was okay because he is a good man and has been a really great friend to my husband. But now that it's becoming a reality, I am feeling very anxious, and I am starting to have regrets about this decision. I am scared that the honeymoon phase of our marriage will be without privacy since we live in a small 2-bedroom apartment. I want as much private time as possible with my husband. On the other hand, as someone who was homeless for 15 days in the past and had to seek help from friends to stay at their places, I feel guilty about saying no to him. But again, I feel like 5 months is too long, and my 1-year wedding anniversary will be coming around by then. I really don't know what to do. Any suggestions are welcome. Thank you. Edit 1. My husband's friend did look at other houses as well. He can afford to stay at another place. My husband wanted him to save on rent and come stay with us and only pay bills, which I am completely fine with. But the timing is the worst part. If it was any other time in my marriage or relationship, I would have happily had him over even for a year. But this is the only phase we get to be free and enjoy before we decide to start a family. Edit 2. I am not going to refuse this person a home at the last minute. My confusion is more about the length of the period. I don't have the heart to ask him to move after a few weeks or a month. I don't know how my husband is going to take it. But I am definitely not going to say no at the last minute. Story 6. So I, a 23-year-old female, met Bryn, a 22-year-old female, about 2 years ago. Our friendship grew really fast, and earlier this year she invited me to be one of her bridesmaids in her wedding this upcoming October. I was obviously really happy and said yes. I was then told that I would need to pay for my own dress, shoes, nails, and makeup, everything required. Now, that wasn't as exciting to me, but I still went along with it because it was for her big day, and I considered her a really close friend. As we planned the wedding and the bachelorette party, things started to get pretty strained between Bryn and me. I don't want to go into all the details of our relationship, and I'm not here to get opinions on what happened between us. Long story short, a lot of small things happened and added up, and I realized that the friendship was actually harming my mental health. We had a very long phone call last week that didn't end well. She ended up kicking me out of her wedding and sent me back the $133 I had already sent her to cover the cost of the makeup artist. Despite that, through the messages she sent after the phone call, I could tell she believed I dropped out of the wedding rather than her kicking me out. We haven't spoken since last week, and I was fine with things ending where they did. Now today, I got a message from Bryn asking for the money back. In the message, she told me that because I dropped out of the bridal party, she had to change her contract with the makeup artist since they now have 6 services instead of 7. She said she should have never sent me my money back because she signed a legal agreement. So basically, she told me she had to break her contract, which I understand could cause extra fees, but she decided to break it and incur those fees before even asking me for the money back. Am I wrong to think that this isn't my problem? Would I be the asshole if I didn't send the money back? Story 7. AITA for sleeping over at my friend's house. For background, I am 19 years old, and I have never had my mother meet a friend of mine that she liked. I have challenged her to name a friend of mine throughout my whole life she has liked, and she is genuinely unable to do so. She is not like this with any of my other siblings, only me. She insists I surround myself with weirdos, gays, and people who have poor parenting. When I started getting girlfriends, it was the same deal. She hates my current girlfriend Anna, who is 19 years old, to the point she is not welcome in my house. This is because one time I had a fight with Anna, and I came home crying. Since then I tried to explain that sometimes people fight, and their relationship is strong enough to overcome it, but she is not buying it. She insists that Anna treats me like crap, and says there is something wrong with me for putting up with it. Last night I had a plan to attend a party and sleep in a friend's house. His name is Alex. This was because his house was closer to the party, but also because I hoped it would get my mother off my back about where I was at every single second, and when I was coming home. I told my mother I was staying over, she said that was cool, and I promised to contact her throughout the night. When I was out, I texted my mother, told her where I was, who I was with, etc., and it all seemed fine. Then my mother called me, and was bitching about where I was staying the night, saying that I was probably going somewhere else to sleep with girls. I asked her if she wanted me to come home instead, and offered to FaceTime her to show her where I was. She hung up the phone and texted me not to bother. When I came home in the morning, she told all my relatives that I had simply not come home last night, as if I was some crack addict. She accused me of being a homosexual with Alex and was harassing me, asking me if I had something to tell her. To be clear, I am not gay and neither is Alex. She had attempted to contact Alex's parents to confirm I was in their house. This freaked Alex out, as well as his mom, because it is a pretty normal thing for my friend group to sleep over in each other's houses. Our parents rarely get involved because we are all adults. She told me if I ever sleep at somebody else's house again, she would kick me out. I feel like this is really unfair, as I am 18 years old, and a lot of the parties or events I attend are far away and often require me to sleep at friends' houses. My mother says as long as I live under her roof, I have to follow her rules, but sometimes I feel like I'm being suffocated. AITA. Story 8. I live in a large apartment building with a business center for all the work from home people. It's moderately used, but never super full. I work remotely for a small nonprofit and spend most days there. We recently hired someone who lives nearby, and she often joins me in the business center. It's well set up for work from home people. There are 6 individual call pods with desks and outlets, etc. They are basically never all full. There are a few tables and couches out in the open space, and there is one conference room with 3 chairs and a bit more space. This is where my coworker and I would often sit. Sometimes other people get there first, which is no big deal, it's first come first serve. I feel completely unbothered when other groups or more than one person use the room. However, for the past 2 weeks, every day when I go down there, I see the same guy sitting in the 3-person room alone. He works there, alone, all day. My coworker and I often cram into one of the individual pods to take calls so we aren't being disruptive out in the open. But I would be the asshole if I asked this guy why he is always using the 3-person room alone. If he had another person there, I wouldn't mind, but it feels wasteful of the space. On the other hand, I could be wrong because my coworker technically doesn't live here, and we use the business center many days. It is also first come, first served, so he isn't actually doing anything wrong or against building policy. It is not against building policy to have guests use the workspace. I have explicitly asked. Story 9. My husband's 29th birthday was last week. 3 weeks before, I told him I planned a lobster buffet for him with our 2-year-old. He was super excited because he mentioned several times in the past that he'd never had lobster. I told him to tell me if he had any other preferences, but he loved my idea, so I booked the dinner, which cost around $120 or about €100, and I also bought gifts of similar value, totaling about $240 or around €200, which is a significant amount where I come from. A week before his birthday, his mother texted, asking for an invitation. My husband said absolutely not, and said he's tired of constantly paying for his family's celebrations. He usually provides food and gifts for others' birthdays, and feels resentful that he's not getting the same treatment for his own birthday. Since the buffet was for dinner, I considered inviting his mother to lunch instead. He's annoyed by his family's expectations, but I know he loves his mom very much and that he'd still want to spend his birthday with her. The main issue is that his mother also celebrated her birthday earlier in the month. My husband gave her travel money, and I gave her $100 or about €85 in spending money. While she was away, she asked for some extra cash, which I was happy to give her. Since then, I have been transparent about my husband's birthday expenses, telling her about my limited remaining budget. I mentioned that if she wanted to come, she should come alone because of our financial constraints. She agreed. The night before his birthday, she suddenly said she would be bringing her mother and my husband's younger brother. I reminded her of our budget limitations, but she insisted they wouldn't eat much. I told her I literally did not have any money to host more people, and my husband was unwilling to pay for them. Bringing 2 additional people would compromise our grocery budget for the rest of the week. I eventually gave in but felt very disrespected. I didn't tell my husband at first, but I felt so bad that I confided in my sister-in-law, who then told my older brother-in-law. He ended up lecturing my mother-in-law, and then she sent a message saying, "Yeah, let's probably just meet next time," and she has since ignored me. I now feel terrible. I want to clarify that my husband loves his mom and loves spending time with her. He just resents spending money for her. I know I was foolish and disrespectful for violating his boundaries, but he does not have a bad relationship with her, as many people seem to think. I am still the one in the wrong, but my husband does not hate his mom. Story 10. I live in New York City. My stepsister, who is a college professor and a psychologist, loves to visit New York City. Every last week of her school semester she brags about getting 2.5 months off. Okay, show off, let's have some fun then. Late April, we talk about planning for the summer. I tell her to let me know when she can come, and I will make a list of events. Late May, I reach out to her again and say, hey, I haven't heard from you. She responds, well, you haven't heard from me because you didn't send the event list. I tell her, okay, fine. Let me know exactly when you're coming to New York City so we can lock down a time frame that works for both of us. Fast forward a month, now late June, and I still haven't heard anything from her. Out of the blue, she calls me and says she's going to Texas to visit her parents and will be flying out of New York in 48 hours. She asks if she can park her car in my parking garage until she gets back and also hang out at my place for a few hours. I tell her that unfortunately I won't be home because I won't be at home, I was working, and also ask if there was no way she could have told me sooner than 48 hours. She responds that she bought her plane ticket that same day, implying she had no control over contacting me sooner about flying out of New York. She parks her car by my parents' house instead. She then states that in 2 weeks she would be flying back to New York City, and maybe we should hang out then. The entire 2 weeks I didn't hear a word from her. Apparently, she was planning on landing in New York City, grabbing her car keys, and driving 3 hours back home without telling anyone she had returned. But her departing flight in Texas got delayed, so she decided to stay overnight with my parents before driving back home. When she was leaving, my mom mentioned she knew her, and I always hung out each summer and asked if we had anything interesting planned in New York City this summer. Suddenly, she turns around and randomly tells my mother that the ball is in my court, that I am always working, implying that it's my fault she can't come spend time in New York City. I confront her. At first, she says she was just joking when she made that statement to my mother. Then she explodes into tears, telling me she had a horrible time with her parents and brother over the past 2 weeks, and that she didn't make any definite plans to hang out in New York City this weekend anyway, so I shouldn't be mad that she flew back to New York and left without saying anything. I tell her she is being deceptive, and if she wasn't sure she could visit this summer, that's okay. But it wasn't okay for her to imply to my mother that the reason she couldn't visit was because I was too busy for her. An hour later, she texts me apologizing and says that she is no good at communication and that she's working on her communication skills. She also says that we are both in the wrong and asks why she should be the one to let me know when she's free, considering she is off all summer long. I have hosted my sister in my home in New York City for the past 3 summers, and this is what all of this comes down to. Am I the asshole? Story 11. Am I the asshole for not giving my sister more money? My sister is on disability because she has bipolar disorder. Her 30-year-old son also has bipolar disorder but does not get disability benefits. My sister, who is 58 years old, blew through her $50,000 inheritance and ended up losing the house my mother left her. She lived in a manufactured home that was paid for and was supposed to cost about $800 a month in lot rent, but she didn't pay it and was evicted. She didn't take care of the house, which was disgusting and destroyed. Neither did her son. He didn't work or pay any bills. Once she was evicted in Illinois in December of 2024, she moved to Florida where I live with her son. Their truck, which was given to them by a kind older man that they ruined, was impounded, so once they got to Florida, they had no transportation. She also has 2 dogs. Since we don't get along well, instead of putting her in my home with her son and dogs, I put her in a hotel. I've been paying for the hotel for 6 months. Once she sold the house, the money from that, which wasn't much because of the condition of the home, was put into savings so she can eventually rent her own place. She keeps her disability check, which is $1,500 a month, and her son gets $292 a month in food assistance benefits and also gets free health care. They're responsible for paying for food and other necessities, but it's never enough. She keeps asking for money for extras, especially kratom and marijuana. Her son is addicted to the kratom and throws a huge fit every day if he can't get any and goes through withdrawal. I've had enough and decided to stop giving them money and just let them survive on her disability check, their food assistance benefits, and the money from selling the house. She's crying and screaming that they're going to end up on the streets. I also have to take them everywhere because they lost their vehicle. I'm feeling guilty. It's not fair. My mother left her $50,000 in cash, and her son got $10,000 in cash, but it was all gone within a few months. I have to survive too. I have my own rent and bills, and I just can't do this anymore. Story 12. A little backstory. I, a 30-year-old woman, moved away from my hometown about 10 years ago for university, and during that time, I disconnected from a lot of my extended family because I grew up surrounded by family conflict, toxicity, and drama, and I just really wanted to focus on myself and my schooling. In this time, my extended family did not bother to reach out to me either. Now that I am a bit older, I have been making more of an effort to reconnect with my extended family, such as with my grandparents who are in their 80s. I reached out to my grandfather, letting him know I would be in town again, and I would like to meet up. He seemed happy to hear from me. A few days later, I sent him a follow-up message arranging details, and he exploded at me for being disrespectful for starting the message with "Hello smiling face with smiling eyes" rather than "Hello grandfather." Here is the text exchange. Me. Hello smiling face with smiling eyes. Hope your day is going well. I'm just setting up my schedule for our trip, and wanted to see if there was a particular day that works best for you both to get together. We could come over to your home, or we can go out for coffee or tea, or anything that is easiest for you both. First of all, I am not hello. I am your grandfather. Some respect, please. If you wish to maintain a relationship with your grandparents, you will have to change your attitude. I know there is a bit of a generational difference in texting, and I wish I had started with a more formal greeting addressing him by his title, but I found his response quite jarring. I might be the asshole here because perhaps just a hello is too informal when speaking to an elder, and I should have recognized this. I come from a South Asian background where respect is placed on a pedestal. Am I the asshole? Story 13. I am dealing with a pretty messed up family situation right now involving my brother. He has been running what I now fully believe is a cryptocurrency scam, and I ended up tracking down a lot of the proof myself. Some people in my family think I went too far by confronting him and involving his so-called lawyer, but I honestly don't think I did anything wrong. My brother told me he was starting an LLC and dealing with some kind of cryptocurrency investment stuff, but the second he looped me in, things started to feel off. He sent me fake transaction screenshots, bogus documents, and texts that were supposedly from his attorney. None of it added up. His wife also told me he went to a cryptocurrency bank in Michigan, which doesn't even exist. Then she said he was buying a more powerful computer to move crypto faster when I exposed that there were no cryptocurrency banks there. It got more and more ridiculous as the day went on. I started fact-checking everything. I looked up the blockchain wallets he gave me and found activity that leads to well-known wallets on exchanges doing transactions every second. He was also altering emails and screenshotting them in the most obvious ways, such as incorrect money formatting and date formatting. Eventually, I just emailed the actual lawyer he said he was working with. He confirmed he was working with them, but never went past that because my sister-in-law told me I had overstepped boundaries by verifying the lawyer was real. The only thing I'm unsure of is whether he is running the scam himself, or if he's involved in a long-term scam where he's being used to lure people in and then get them to lose money, kind of like a pig butchering scam. And now everyone in my family is mad at me for exposing everything I found. Story 14. Am I the asshole for canceling my birthday celebration because of my mom's behavior and not wanting to talk to her anymore? My birthday is this Sunday, and I usually celebrate it with my family, but a few months ago I moved in with my uncles because my mom has mental health issues and I had to leave my house. We went a long time without speaking because she was angry with me. We reconnected about 2 months ago. A week ago, my mom got upset with me because I arrived at my uncle's house late. I got there at 7 p.m., which led to a fight where she told me she wouldn't be coming to my birthday. That really hurt, but I tried to let it go. This past week, not only did she not talk to me, but she also told my uncle that unless I invited her again, she wouldn't come. On top of that, she started inviting people I've maybe seen once in my life. I've been feeling really sad this week, and came to the decision not to celebrate my birthday at all. It just didn't feel like my celebration anymore. I also didn't want to message my mom or take pictures with her just for appearances when she doesn't even speak to me. She got really mad and called me irresponsible, rude, and spoiled. She said she had invited people, and now she has to call them to cancel because there won't be a party. The thing is, yesterday I spent the whole day at my boyfriend's place, and when I got back, my aunt told me that my mom had come to my uncle's house and argued with him, saying he spoils me and that I'm a bad daughter. Then, my mom sent me 2 voice messages saying I'm a terrible daughter, that I'm selfish and living off my uncle's, even though she doesn't work and basically lives off the money my grandfather sends her. She said I'm horrible as a daughter, and that from now on, I no longer exist to her. The thing is, I don't want to talk to her anymore or go to joint therapy again. I'm exhausted, and her words were awful. But I know my uncle wants me to fix things with her eventually. I'm just not sure if that's even possible. Story 15. Am I the asshole for refusing to cook for my sister until she apologizes? I live with my sister, and we just had a big fight, and now I am refusing to do any more cooking until she apologizes. She works as a teacher, and came home today to a bit of a mess in the kitchen. I had been trying a new hosepipe attachment to the kitchen sink which had popped off and sprayed water everywhere. I mopped up the water, but the floor and some other things were still a bit damp, so I was leaving them to dry. Basically, I made a mess, so I was cleaning it up. When she saw this and I explained it, she said, "You couldn't have cleaned the floor too, as in get detergent and wash the floor." I jokingly responded with, "Fine, next time I will leave the mess for you to clean up." And suddenly, I am the asshole for insinuating she should clean up after me. She even acknowledged she knew it was a joke, yet I was still the asshole apparently. The argument escalated, until I had enough and threw the mop on the floor and stormed upstairs. This argument touched a nerve with me. We both work 9 to 5, and I do all the cooking including meal planning, shopping, and usually cleaning up afterward. This is usually about 2 hours every evening, and after a day of work, I am usually too tired to do much more than get things up to a manageable level each day. My sister, meanwhile, does most of the rest of the cleaning and tidying around the rest of the house, which usually takes the form of her doing a blitz through the house every few months. So I was annoyed. I decided that if she thinks I never do anything, then she has nothing to lose by me stopping what I am doing, and I told her that until she apologizes, I am not going to feed her anymore. The gist of the ensuing argument was that she didn't think she was the one who needed to apologize, that I never do any work around the house, and that she's always cleaning up after me. She even said, "When have you ever vacuumed the stairs?" To which I responded with the same question. She refused to answer because I am pretty sure the answer is maybe 4 or 5 times in the 2.5 years we have lived here. Meanwhile, I have definitely done that at least once, and I refuse to be blamed for not doing a chore that she barely does herself. After it became apparent that the argument was going nowhere, I just left and here I am. The thing is, I actually don't mind doing the cooking. I know she has a stressful job, and I am happy to take some of the load off her, but I just like some respect, and I really don't want the snarky comments about how I don't do cleaning. She even emphasized that she spent a day cleaning that she wasn't paid for, and now I am wondering if she thinks I am getting paid for the 12 or so hours every week that I spend cooking. Meanwhile, she spends 1 day cleaning every few months. So all in all, I am now thinking that if she spends some time cooking for herself, she'll realize just how much time I spend on it. If anyone's wondering, I have been seeing a therapist, but she refuses to do so. Story 16. I am a 35-year-old woman, and I have been married to my husband, who is 35, for 3 years now. Together, we have been a couple for a total of 8 years. I entered into my bonus daughter's life when she was 4 years old, and I do not have any biological children of my own, so she is my one and only daughter. My husband and I work for the same company but in different departments. I am in management, and my husband works more on the food and beverage side of the company. A lot of what he does involves cocktails, wines, spirits, and different kinds of alcohol. He is very talented and knowledgeable at his job and is a huge asset to the company. Since we have been together, my mother has labeled both myself and my now husband, who at the time was my boyfriend, as alcoholics. She tells all of my family members how much we drink and how my husband does alcohol for a living. She has been saying this for several years now. From the start of my relationship with, let's call him Robert, I had no interest in bringing him around my mother, which he understood from the beginning. And it would be a cold day in hell before she would meet my daughter, let's call her Charlie. My mother is getting up there in age, so my little sister planned a trip to come home for a visit, because she is worried our mom might pass away before she ever gets the chance to see her in person again. I had no interest in attending this visit, but against my better judgment, I went to support my sister. The visit seemed to go okay, because I didn't receive too many backhanded remarks. Once the visit was over, I helped my mom get into the passenger seat of her car, where she made a comment, "Maybe one of these days I'll get to meet my other granddaughter before I go." I brushed this off because I didn't want to hurt her feelings and simply said, "Yeah, maybe one day." The following day, my sister and I went back to visit with our brother for some quality time, and I found out what my mother was really saying behind my back. She was telling the same old story that my husband and I are alcoholics, and that she's worried about the household that Chrissy is being raised in. She also said how fat I have gotten, and that I have let myself go since getting married. She then added that she is worried about the kind of parents my husband and I are to Chrissy, and that our environment is toxic for raising children. My brother yelled at our mom and said this is exactly why let's call me Mona, don't come around to visit. My little sister thought I was being overly sensitive because our mom is elderly, and because Chrissy is close enough to the name Charlie. My sister said, "Mom is mom, and she's always gonna be this way," and that I should just let our mom meet Charlie before it's too late. I stand by my decision and said no, absolutely not, and I don't have any regrets about my choice whatsoever. So, am I the asshole for not allowing my mother to meet my daughter and husband? Story 17. I just had someone come to my house. I think they were selling something, not sure. He started off by knocking on my door super aggressively, which I already don't like. Then I went to look on my Ring camera and saw he was shirtless. I decided to go on my Ring to see what he wanted, because I didn't feel safe opening the door. He then proceeded to tell me that our neighborhood has been flagged for high power usage and that they are trying to help people save money. I told him I was not interested. Then he said that it was not an option to not be interested, and that he had paperwork with my information on it that he couldn't leave at the door. I told him again I was not interested, I was not opening the door, and if he wanted he could leave the paper at the door or leave. Keep in mind, I had already told him I was not interested at least 5 times. I stopped answering because he obviously didn't know when to quit. Then he proceeded to tell me that he was just trying to do his job, that I wasn't treating him like a human being, and that I was being extremely rude. He then said he would be back in 3 hours because he had to give me the paper. Am I the asshole for not opening the door? I answered through the Ring. I could have just ignored him completely, but I didn't. Thanks for all the replies. I try to be nice to everyone. Sometimes it's at my own detriment. I usually open the door for solicitors. I don't mind talking to them, but this guy in particular just gave me weird vibes. The fact that he called me out for being rude made me feel some type of way, like maybe I was being an asshole for telling him to leave and not wanting to open the door. However, you guys are right. They are not owed anything. Thanks for making it to the end of today's video. I'd really appreciate it if you'd consider liking or subscribing, but I hope you have a nice day either way.